Welcome to the Hope for the Animals podcast, sponsored by Compassionate Living. I'm your host, Hope Bohannick, and you can find all our past shows by going to our website, hopefortheanimalspodcast.org. And you can also find us on social media. Come and engage with us on Facebook and Instagram. Well, festival season is upon us. It seems like all, or at least most, of the veg fests and vegan festivals happen in the fall. And we just had our Sonoma County Veg Fest in Santa Rosa, California, that I organize every year, and it was fantastic. Lots of great food. I ate so much good food. Let's see, my favorite was the fried vegan mozzarella balls from Goatlandia Farm Sanctuary and catering. That was delicious. I ate pastries from a Swedish bakery. I brought home vegan donuts and Pop-Tarts. Wow, so much good food. We had bunnies and pigeons for adoption. They were adorable. So much beautiful animal art. I think we had three or four artists that just had some beautiful, beautiful art. It was just a fabulous day. And our guest today is also a festival organizer, Erika Hazel, and we're going to talk about the importance of vegan food fests. So at the Veg Fest, when I was looking at the crowd of people and the long lines for the tacos, I was reflecting on how far we have come in the last 30 years. It's really some hopeful history, I feel, because, I remember back in the 90s, even the early 2000s, the community was so small that you pretty much knew every other vegan in your community, first of all, and you definitely knew all the events that were happening in your area. But that has really changed. Now there are just so many you don't even know all the events that are happening. There would maybe be a film showing at a library or something, but we really couldn't imagine an event the size and scale of today's Veg Fests. There wasn't enough food, really. There wasn't enough vendors. It wasn't what we have today. We often gauge our progress by the abundance of vegan food available now in stores and restaurants, but I think another metric of our success are these vegan festivals all across the world. It's so amazing how now you just can't keep up with how many events are in an area, especially an area like the Bay Area, but any major city now. That slowed during the pandemic, of course, and a lot of events moved online. But even thinking about that, you can pretty much watch a vegan webinar or conference online every day if you wanted to. There's that many. I think that this is so important. It shows how far we've come. Some of these events get criticized for preaching to the choir, but what I would say to that is, one, the choir can always do better. The choir needs to learn more, learn how to communicate better, gain more knowledge. That is so important. And two, if the choir isn't having fun, they'll quit. Right? So building community is so important, helping people feel supported and connected and having fun, to have fun. As vegans, I think this is so important because we're very sensitive people because we feel the pain of the world. We feel what's happening to the animals and the planet, and we just have to find ways to laugh, right? And to celebrate and to feel positive about the world. And that's what these festivals do for us. And the veg-curious pre-vegans do come. We get a good percentage of pre-vegans to our Veg Fest. And I know it's the reason that people go vegan in our area. So it's excellent outreach. So let's now bring in Erika and hear more about her food fest in Berkeley. Okay, today we are joined by Erika Hazel. Erika became the Bizerkeley Vegan after transitioning to the vegan lifestyle in October of 2016. And the name, the Bizerkeley Vegan, comes from her love of everything others see as bizarre or unique about Berkeley, California. And the Bizerkeley Vegan is not only a popular social media influencer and food blogger, but also organizes the Bizerkeley Vegan Food Fest. Erika's goal is to engage with people to help them find the best plant based foods the world has to offer. Welcome to the podcast, Erika.
Hi, Hope. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So, we like to start the interviews with your vegan origin story, and we got the
Yeah.
win. We got the win in your bio. That was 2016 that you went vegan. But why did you go vegan? What inspired you to go vegan?
Yeah. So when I was in college, I was on the Society of Pre-Veterinary Students board while I was in college at UC Irvine, and I tried to be a biology major. And, it doesn't really work out when you keep failing chemistry. But as I, was walking around campus, someone handed me a flyer. And on the outside of the flyer, it said, "Do you want to help animals?" And when I opened up the flyer, it showed, the horrors of animal agriculture, animal farming. And so I was really shocked because I didn't realize that where the food I was eating, the animals, where they were coming from. And so that was something that I think a lot of non-vegans don't realize, how the animals are treated, in animal agriculture. And that just shined a really harsh light on me that it was a wake-up call for me, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so after I got that wake-up call, I started doing my own research, and I was just a lot more conscious about my choices. But for me, I went through kind of different diets before I fully transitioned to veganism. And for me, I was watching a Netflix documentary called Vegucated. Have you ever heard of it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember that one. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was interesting to me because it wasn't your typical, like, let me tell you why your lifestyle is wrong, or let me tell you how to fix your lifestyle. It was more a social experiment. And I thought that it was so interesting that they took these people through this kind of trial of why veganism is good for, mind, body, and spirit, as well as why it's better for the planet. Yeah, it had a real impact on me. And so I think I watched it in 2 parts or 3 parts. And by the time I watched the last part of it, and it was really powerful to see how it really educated the people who did it.
Yeah.
I threw out all the animal products in my house, animal-based products that were in my house, because I wanted my diet to match my ethics.
Yeah. So you organize this food fest in Berkeley that's called the Bizerkeley Vegan Food Fest, and you are the Bizerkeley Vegan online. And it just happened a few weeks ago in September, early
Mhm.
September. Yeah. So tell us about that food fest. How did that get started? What inspired you?
Yeah, so actually, I just wanted to correct you really quick. It's the Bizerkeley Food Festival. And the reason it's not the Bizerkeley Vegan Food Festival
Ah,
is because the whole point of this festival is to destigmatize and demystify what vegan food is. And so I've actually had a lot of people point out, you don't say it's a vegan food festival. I'm like, I know, because vegan food is just food.
yeah. I assumed that. Sorry. So yeah, thanks for correcting me. Yeah,
Oh, no,
tell us about that. Tell us why you chose to do that.
yeah. So for me, once I started being vegan, I had all these amazing mentors on Instagram who were just teaching me, like, how to make the vegan version of In-N-Out's animal fries, how to do this, how to do that. And so I started traveling the country, going to different vegan food festivals by myself and with friends. And so I've been to ones in Southern California, the ones here in the Bay Area, the Portland Vegan Food Festival, the Atlantic City Vegan Food Festival. And for me, I have a lot of friends that are pop-up chefs who go to different places and sell their amazing food, once or twice a month at these different locations. And for me, I just wanted to combine the best of all of the food festivals that I had been to, and also eliminate the parts of them that were not as appetizing, for lack of a better term, to both the vendors and to the guests. And so for me, for example, what I love about the Portland Vegan Food Festival is there's a ton of samples. I love how many samples are at the Portland Veg Fest, and in Southern California at the no longer in operation Eat Drink Vegan Food Festival, where I used to organize a kind of like a road trip or a meetup of Bay Area vegans to go down to LA. What I loved about the Eat Drink Vegan Food Festival was that it was just so much fun. It felt like a big party, like a giant big vegan party. And I love that, and getting to meet like vegan celebrities and vegan influencers who I followed on social media, and some of my favorite vegan businesses who were either on the East Coast in LA or even from the United Kingdom. So that was just really powerful and really important to me. And so with the Bizerkeley Food Festival, the whole point is to have these amazing Bizerkeley vegan approved vendors. So everyone, 80% of the vendors I have tasted, and I love their food, and I want everyone else to love their food as well.
Yeah. I saw on your Instagram that you were having the vendors taste test. Like you wanted a taste test before the event, before you'd let them in, right?
Yeah. And so I think that's what separates my food festival from a lot of other festivals, is that it's not just apply and you can be there. Because I think not the problem with veganism, but one aspect of veganism is that, I got my start as a food critic. Like I taste food and I, recommend it. To get more people to eat more plant-based, to eat more vegan, we have to give them, in my opinion, I want to share the foods that are going to hook them and keep them coming back. And so like the vegan hood chefs in San Francisco, they are, showstoppers. They're amazing. Vegan Heat in Vallejo. Not too many people get out to Vallejo or Vallejo. I wanted to bring her to the East Bay so people could try her food and get to know her better. And, having some major retailers like Brave Robot, whose ice cream I absolutely love, and Eclipse ice cream. I think it was really important to show people who are not vegan. We have a lot of non-vegans. Probably 30% of our audience is non-vegan. When they show up, they're like, oh, I can buy this at so-and-so. I can buy this at so-and-so. I'm like, yeah, that's going to keep them from picking up cow and dairy-based ice cream and keep them picking up plant-based ice cream. Because my goal is to eliminate people's desire to use animal agriculture-based products and transition fully over to vegan-based products.
Yeah, that's great. And I appreciate that so much, because I've been one of those for years and years. Like even at like potlucks, we used to do these potlucks, and I would go around and kind of taste everything. And if there was something that didn't taste good or that was just crappy, I'd pull it and put it back where nobody could see it. Because you want the best of the best, especially if it could be their very first time eating vegan food. And there's that stereotype of, oh, it's bad, it's dry, it's terrible, it's whatever. And vegan food, as we know, can be so incredible. So we want to showcase that, right? Showcase the best of the best, especially at an event where they might be non-vegans.
Absolutely. And I think also I've met people who were vegan, like a coworker of mine was like, oh yeah, I was vegan for 5 years. And now I'm back to eating animal agriculture based products. And I'm like, what? So I think it's also important to show the best of veganism in terms of food to vegans as well, so they don't want to transition back. Because for me, hearing that as a baby vegan, a new vegan, was really disheartening, because I just was like, I can't imagine going back to eating animal agriculture based products. That's so weird that you were a vegan for 5 years and then you transitioned back. And so for me, the path that I want to encourage people to go vegan is through their stomachs, because food is love, food is community, food is so many things to so many people. And so we all have different forms of activism. Going through the stomach is my form of activism to get people to go vegan. And the other major part of the food festival was, I started to plan this festival in like February, March of 2020, before the COVID-19 pandemic shut everything down. And so my concern was in 2020, I was like, oh, there are places going out of business. This is scary. And so I couldn't imagine my favorite businesses, Sabor, Sabelle's Front Room, the vegan hood chefs going out of business and no longer making their delicious foods. And so the first year, the Bizerkeley Food Festival was actually in fall of 2020, where we had people play bingo. And once they played bingo, they could win prizes donated from other vegan small businesses, so that we were able to promote these small vegan businesses so they would not go out of business. And a lot of our businesses in the food festival, both back in 2020 until today, are women-owned businesses. The global majority or people of color owned businesses. And so that's a huge push for me. It was really beautiful this year at the Bizerkeley Food Festival. I don't think I've ever seen so many, African-American Black people at a vegan food festival before. And it was really beautiful because it was such a diverse space. Like, there were people of all ethnic backgrounds, different sexual orientations, like everything. It was so beautiful to see how diverse it was. And some of the feedback we got was, everyone here is just so happy. And I'm like, I know, I don't know why the vibes are so good here, but they really are. And, we grew exponentially this year in a way that we didn't anticipate, because we had about 500 people waiting to get in when we opened at 11 a.m.
Wow.
Which we did not anticipate from last year. It was quite the opposite. And so next year, we're going to be expanding the festival. And, my goal is always to have a consumer friendly, a guest friendly event, because while it's not a food festival without the food vendors, but it's also not a food festival without the customers. And thankfully this year, with everything that happened, our vendors sold out so fast. There was so much support, so much love for them. And so we really want to keep that energy going next year. So we're going to take the feedback that we got and make sure that it is as successful and happy for the vendors as it is for our guests. But yeah, we were so surprised to see hundreds and hundreds of people lined up at like 10:30, 10:45 in the morning before we even opened. It was the turnout was amazing, even in, a record-setting heat wave. It was just amazing.
Yeah, building community is so important. And, you mentioned a friend that was vegan for a while and went back to eating animal products. And a lot of that can be social. It can be that they didn't feel supported socially, or that they had community connections. So it's such an important part of these events to build community. So, Erika, what excites you about veganism right now?
One of my speakers at the Bizerkeley Food Fest, her name is Sabrina Sith on Instagram. She's been a vegan for 17 years. And it was so cool to have her speak at the festival, because her topic was around the evolution of veganism and how it was just, follow your heart. And Tofurky products, to now it, projected to, if it's not already, $1 billion industry at this point. And so for me, what most excites me about veganism today is how easy it is to go and stay vegan. And I think I'm really excited to see how many companies are offering vegan options and are offering even little things. Like, I went to a cafe in Lake Merritt by my job, and it wasn't on the main menu, but next to the cash register was a sign, "We have vegan cream cheese." I was like, shut up. You have vegan cream cheese for my bagel? I thought I was going to have to get a dry bagel,
Yeah.
or I was going to have to keep a pat of vegan butter in my purse or something. And so it was so cool. And they were like, yeah, we have vegan cream cheese, and I'll put avocado on your bagel. Like, it's not the days of having, a very bland or dry, or, the iconic, I can only eat French fries here, and hopefully they're not cooked
French
in,
fries. Yep.
the same oil as animal products. So I think for me, veganism is just becoming so mainstream. So I think it's the progression of veganism just being normalized and not stigmatized, not this taboo that's only for, tree huggers, lifestyle and diet, I think is just beautiful for not just humans, just for the planet and animals in general.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Erika, do you ever miss meat?
So I really love that question, because it goes back to my whole, hey, veganism is not just you think about it one day and you're done, it's a constant thing. And so I think I posted on my Instagram page a year ago, I was having nightmares about eating like fried chicken in my in my dreams. It
Oh,
was so
yeah.
weird.
Oh, yeah.
And so when it comes to, and I think this is like a really big question around veganism for non-vegans, like I think I don't know if it's a vegan slur, but like one of the things that, you don't know what you're missing. You need to go back to eating the real thing, this, that, and the other. And I think when we talk about, what am I missing? No, I'm not missing anything. I'm not unhappy. I'm not eating tofu and pretending or closing my eyes and pretending that it's not tofu. So yeah, when it comes to missing meat, I've had meat nightmares or meat mares, which
Meat
are not
mirrors.
fun.
Oh,
They're not fun because I'm like, oh my
yeah.
gosh, I didn't want to hurt that chicken, because I really don't. Like, my ethics come first.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole point of the Bizerkeley Food Festival, is that you can have that similar sensation and experience of eating deep fried oyster mushrooms with hot sauce or vegan buffalo sauce or whatever, to have that same experience. So when people ask me, do you miss meat? I say no, because I'm not missing anything. I found the things that I'm looking for in veganism that have replaced what you are worried about missing. People have been like, oh, you want to try my cake? And I'm like, you made that with eggs and milk, cow's milk. Yeah, just try it. No, I'm not going to do that. Like, trying your cake is not worth compromising this part of myself, because this is who I am now. It's not a diet. And I really abhor the term diet restriction, because I'm not restricted. I could put anything I want in my mouth. It's a
Right.
dietary, it's my dietary lifestyle. It's my dietary need. It's my dietary preference.
Yes.
So yeah, there's just so many negative connotations around veganism, that with the Bizerkeley Food Festival, I'm able to show people, you can have your nachos and your this and your that, because I think that, when it comes to missing stuff, I want people to miss plastic bags, but love reusable bags. I want people to live a more animal friendly lifestyle outside of their stomachs. But I know the stomach is a very big compass for a lot of people and how they choose to live their lives. And so that's why I use the Bizerkeley Food Fest and my Instagram page to guide people's stomachs to more animal protective and friendly ways. But like you said, it's so many other aspects of our lives that we want to also steer people to leaving animals alone and having better alternatives for.
Yeah. Oh, the meat mirror. Oh, that's such a great description. I had those too. I used to have, luckily I don't anymore. It's been a while, but I used to have those dreams where you're like eating something and you suddenly realize it's meat. And it's like, oh, and you're so just disgusted and
Yeah.
overwhelmed. And yeah, it's a horrible, horrible feeling in your dream. I know I've totally had that. And it's true. People will be like, well, don't you miss this? Or wouldn't you want to just try this? To me, animal product foods that are made from animals, it's not food. Like, it's just, I don't even consider it food. To me, it's suffering. It is a representation of the suffering that the animals endure. And so that cake doesn't look good anymore when you really think it through. And it's just not food. The only food that really exists is vegan food.
Right. And that looks like, plants and nuts and legumes and all the things. And I think the beautiful part about modern veganism is that you can have that amazing cake without the cruelty.
Right. That's right.
Going back to what you just said about, it doesn't look appetizing anymore, it just looks like suffering. I think for a lot of people, what I know from talking to non-vegans is cheese, dairy, animals from the ocean are some of the hardest things to give up. But like you said, when I look at, a Dungeness crab feed, all I'm looking at people ripping up body parts and eating, like, it's like very zombified
Yeah.
behavior to me, because we're human animals. And so it's like, everyone just looks like, an episode out of The Walking Dead or something. And I'm just like, you're eating body parts. Like, that's a
Yeah.
leg. That's
Yeah.
so, yeah. So same, like, all I see is suffering. It doesn't look like food anymore.
That's right. That's right. It's so disturbing. Yeah. So I want to take us in a different direction. I want to ask you about the humane hoax. We talk a lot about the humane hoax on this show. And of course, the humane hoax is all those labels that we're seeing, the cage free, free range, grass fed, and we're seeing it so much more now. I wonder if you want to share your thoughts about the humane hoax.
Yes, absolutely. So my background is I'm a therapist. I've been a child and adolescent therapist for almost a decade now. And for me, a lot of vegans ask me, how do you incorporate veganism in your job when you're working with children? And as a therapist, my job is not to try to convince anyone to do anything that is not what they want to do. But as a therapist working with kids in a place that has all these animal products constantly, I just simply educate
Mm,
them on like, oh, Miss Erika, why aren't you eating the hamburger or whatever? And I'm like, well, I love cows, so I wouldn't eat cows. And so when I think about the humane hoax, I think about how when we say things like cage free, the new term that's come up recently is greenwashing,
mm,
where we paint things as eco-friendly or better for the environment or better for whomever when it's actually not. And so when I think of things like grass fed, and people are like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get the grass fed beef or cow animal agriculture product for the barbecue, and I'm like, but that cow still died, right? Like, it didn't want to die.
yeah.
And the conditions of cage free eggs, it's not the positive that you think it is. It does not abdicate you of the cruelty that you are a part of, which
Yeah.
is what happened to me when I got that pamphlet that showed the horrors of animal agriculture. And so I think, I don't want to slander anyone for like, or shame them to be like, you're not doing a good job because you're still doing this. But I think it's just like, let's just stop and think about this. I'm not going to try to convince you that it's good or bad, but I'm going to ask you, grass-fed beef. So it was given grass and then its throat was, like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I just calmly like talk to people about it, because I know when I wasn't vegan, I don't know how I would feel if someone were to like, yell and scream in my face about like what really happened to the animal, whether it was grass fed or not. But the result is still the same. It doesn't
Mhm.
change
Yeah.
how that cow ended up on your plate.
Yeah. I don't think as vegans, we actually really do yell and scream. I don't think we ever did. I think that's just how people perceive it when we're just, saying why we're vegan or talking about it calmly. But I don't know, maybe there were a few out there that were yelling and screaming, but we get that reputation. And I really think it's more of a perception because people feel guilty, and I understand that everybody wants to believe that they're a compassionate person and that they're doing compassionate things, and when we are just pointing out to them that, hey, what you're doing causes suffering, it's hard for people to hear that. And so instead of looking at themselves, I think they feel attacked. So but you were talking about greenwashing. This is humane washing. The humane hoax
Right.
is humane washing. Yeah. So it's kind of that perception that something is humane when it's not. And it's all marketing. It's the industry telling a story that is untrue.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if it's humane washing or not, but the thing that really grinds my gears is definitely when I see animals being used to advertise a product that's made up out of their bodies, like a pig holding a plate of bacon.
Oh,
That's like the
yeah.
most,
Awful.
yeah, the most odd, grotesque thing to me.
Yeah.
Or like a fish advertising like to eat tuna. It's just so weird. And I think that's also a part of the psychology behind the marketing of these products. There's no smiling pig who is offering up its own flesh for you to eat. Like,
Yeah.
but when you see that smiling animal, it makes you feel like you're in community and not in, cahoots for the
Right.
murder of these animals. And I know I can just speak for myself. I definitely was an angry vegan when I first went vegan. I was
Oh, yeah.
very passionate and very upset, and I could see how someone would definitely perceive me and the other people who I was with as being, very confrontational or on the aggressive side. But I definitely think for some people, when you first go vegan, you're just like, how could anyone think this way? How could anyone possibly not see how harmful and how cruel and how all these things? And so I definitely think whether vegans are yelling and screaming or not, whether, that's how people take it in or whether it's true or not, there's validity in the passion and
Yeah,
in the energy that people have behind them when they're looking at injustice.
sure. Yeah.
We don't have to, pacify the feelings of people who are participating in harm. And I think that's just one of the things around eco washing is that, you think, or greenwashing is that you think that you're being good to the animals. You think that you're being better to the animals, but I really want to illuminate to you how this is just a hoax, so that humane hoax around what really happens to this animal before it gets to the supermarket and that you purchase it at the store. And I think that definitely as vegans who are passionate about the animals, because the thing about veganism is not everyone goes vegan for the animals, but no matter why you went vegan, we appreciate that you're keeping animals off of your plate. I think it's really important to be that voice for the voiceless. That's so important.
Yeah. Well, Erika, it's really been wonderful to talk to you. I've enjoyed it a lot, and we do need to wrap up though. So I wanted to ask you, what gives you hope for the future?
What gives me hope for the future? Ha, that's your name too. Um,
Yeah.
I think just seeing how powerful vegans are and giving kudos to people who have, like you, who have been doing this for decades, who have been advocating for the humane treatment of animals for decades, and just looking at how this is becoming so mainstream in the sense that, we're able to voice our concerns and our passions and change things. We're definitely transitioning towards a future that is going to look a lot different. And I'm really hoping for the future that we can see protections of animals like sharks who are in a kind of pseudo or unregulated animal agriculture when it comes to things like shark fin soup or, shark based products. So my hope is that with this continued momentum that people like you have started for the past few decades, that we see an even more vegan, not vegan friendly, but animal friendly, animal supportive, anti-animal agricultural world.
Yeah, really well said. Thank you, Erika. Thank you so much for being on, and thank you for all the work that you're doing in Berkeley.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Hope for the Animals podcast, sponsored by Compassionate Living. I hope that you have a vegan festival in your area that's close to you, that you either just went to or are planning to go to. It's so much fun to wander around and know that everything is vegan, that you can eat any of the food, and that those around you are compassionate, caring people who get you. Our vegan community. It's pretty amazing. I hope you have a vegan festival in your area and that you can go and have fun. So, coming up next time, we have a Halloween themed show for you with Marla Rose from Vegan Mainstream. She's going to be talking about Halloween and being vegan around the holidays. And I'm going to give my take on horror movies, zombies, and veganism. I have some thoughts about this to share for this spooky time of the year. Looking forward to sharing that with you. And I hope you're enjoying the change of seasons, some cooler weather, hopefully coming soon. And I can't wait for my first cup of hot cocoa. I am ready. I'm ready for it, ready for fall. So enjoy it. And remember, live vegan. And the Veg Furious, the Veg Furious,